Hi, I'm Kiernan Schmidt, and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast. The seat taken? Well, folks, we're coming to the end of the year, and you are getting a special treat. This is a one-man show this week. Young Ryan J. Davis, is out exploring the world, and he just could not fit his fancy podcaster microphone in his suitcase. And so I said, you know what, Ryan? You take the week off. I'm going to do a solo show. We're going to keep it nice and tight, but we didn't want to go a week without, feeding the beast, feeding the audience hunger for new travel content. And so what we're doing this year is to look back at 2019 and maybe just a little bit of change beyond that. So this is episode 65 of the podcast. And we've been going for a bit over a year. And we think in future years, we'll do a kind of a look back on the year in general. But this time, we're going to go through the whole catalog, our entire oeuvre. And through that oeuvre, we're going to each choose our 5 favorite episodes. So Ryan has sent me the list here today of his top 5 episodes from the catalog. And as always, I'll link to all of the shows in the show notes. And so you can go back, if you're a new listener, you can go back and look at these great episodes that we think are worthy of highlight. So let's see. So Ryan's top 5 episodes are as follows. And I promised him I would report them directly with little or minimal commentary. Number 1, of course, he chooses one of his own series here, Mexico City 1 and 2. And, I got to give it to him. Ryan, not always great on the research. Mexico City, this boy, this Chico, he knows in and out. Ryan Davis is a trusted resource. He's a known entity. You walk around Mexico City, he's practically a celebrity there. And so the 2 Mexico City guides that he has done of his favorite spots around town, I've been to Mexico City. I will say I hit a number of the spots that he mentioned, but he opened up just totally brand new neighborhoods to me, museums I'd never heard of, different types of art, and restaurants and wine spots. I mean, Ryan really gets out on the town. So that's not his number 1. I'm not horribly surprised. And his Mexico City 12 favorite spots, one of our top performing episodes. So no need to recommend that. But go back to the other one. That's his follow-up. Really quite good. Now, Ryan's number 2, Gaudy's Barcelona. And this was our look into the modernist architecture in Barcelona of Gowdy. And, we talk about the Sagrada Familia, of course. Everybody that goes to Barcelona has to go to the Sagrada Familia. But we also tackle some of his lesser-known masterpieces all around Barcelona. Great plane reading if you're on the way to Spain, or maybe a reflection if you're coming back. You can add some things to do the next time. So Ryan's number 3 is Hamilton's New York. Now listen. We know that the podcast audience here, you're not song and dance people, all right? You're not loving our Broadway episodes. We've dialed it back. Sometimes we can't hold ourselves back from performing some of the show tunes. But Hamilton's New York, it's not just a reflection on Hamilton the musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This is also about the deep history of Alexander Hamilton and other Revolutionary War heroes all around New York City. And you could do it as a walking tour. You could do it just for general interest. Hamilton's New York. Now, the 4th pick, I was super happy to see Ryan put this on his list because this was one of my favorites. But this way, I got a new open slot in my 5. And it's his interview about escape rooms with Tommy Wallach, who owns an escape room out in L.A. And what I found so fascinating about this was Tommy Wallach just thinks about escape rooms in a way that is totally different than how I approach them. I thought that they were just sort of these easy, kind of puzzle rooms with a theme, maybe some costumes, maybe some props. Tommy 100% convinced me that escape rooms are actually a new type of medium that is just in its infancy, a new way of telling stories that just today the best creative minds like Tommy himself are starting to unlock the potential of. So if you like escape rooms, or you're interested in escape rooms, or you've never thought of them ever and you want to learn more about them, Escape Rooms with Tommy Wallach. And then finally, now this one gets a big eye roll from me. I'm going to try to I promised I wouldn't put tons of commentary on here, but Ryan, are you serious here? Ryan's fifth top episode of all 65 episodes so far, natural wine in Brooklyn. I mean, I have to say, Ryan was in front of the natural wine trend. Not just blowing smoke. He's been talking natural vino for years. And, now it's all over all the food magazines, all over all the beverage publications, that's short for publications. And, but this is his conversation about what natural wine is, where it got started, and some of the best spots around Brooklyn. And I believe he even has a couple in Manhattan. Natural wine in Brooklyn. And now I want to go through my top 5, but because Ryan's not here, I thought, you know what? I'm going to take 6. That's the little reward I give myself for being the one to actually show up here today, to plug the mic in, to actually produce the content that keeps the podcast going. While Ryan, did I even mention where Ryan is? Ryan is gallivanting. First, he was in Mexico City doing research, presumably for Mexico City 3, the third installment of our Mexico City episodes. But he's also visiting Colombia, which is a place I've desperately wanted to go. I've often been considering it and just haven't found the time yet. But Ryan is doing a grand tour of Colombia. He's going to come back, do an episode in 2020 all about Colombia. So while I'm poking fun, he actually has good reason not to be here. So, and by the way, jealousy inducing on my behalf, obviously. So we've got 6 episodes, my top 6 from the oeuvre. Number 1, and this is no particular order, I should say, is I loved my interview about state parks with Peter Kujawinski, who's a New York Times travel writer. And he did a 2-part series about why state parks are the sort of unsung heroes of American natural conservation and tourism, and why you can find sites that are worthy of national parks, that you might associate more with national parks, that are tucked away and underappreciated and less populated than national parks in the state park system all across the United States. And I remember that one. It's quite long. It's quite comprehensive because the topic was so interesting and new to me that he just kept saying things that I had follow-up questions on. So state parks with Peter Kujawinski, my number 1 pick. Number 2, Ryan combined his 2 Mexico City episodes. I'm going to go in here. I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. I think the Great Peru Trilogy is standing the test of time. We're covering Lima, Cusco, the Sacred Valley, and then a full episode, that 3rd episode, just about Machu Picchu. And I've gotten a lot of great listener feedback that for those who are considering going to Peru, who are heading to Peru, or anyone who knows somebody that's going to Peru, these are great resources to start planning your trip or to listen to while you're experiencing it there. So the Great Peru Trilogy. My 3rd is another one of these place-specific episodes, these sort of destination episodes. And this one is the National Parks of the Pacific Northwest. And, those loyal listeners will know that this year I had a new son, sweet baby Charlie Greenwood Schmidt. And this was sort of the last hurrah trip that my wife, Catherine, and I did. A great road trip all around the Pacific Northwest, kicking off in Seattle, ending in Seattle, and encompassing Mount Rainier National Park, Olympic National Park, Crater Lake National Park. So national parks of the Pacific Northwest. This is one of the best, most beautiful areas of the United States. And it might be national parks that you're not as familiar with. It's not the Yosemites, it's not the Yellowstones, but they are absolutely worthy of your attention. So national parks of the Pacific Northwest. My 4th pick, and again, I'm giving myself 6, is my interview. This goes a little further back. This is my interview with food writer Anissa Helou on foods of the Islamic world. And she has published just this comprehensive tome that really broadened my horizons when I thought about all the foods across the Islamic world. And she finds kind of common threads of cuisine across these quite distinctive cultures. And she writes fluidly. She's very funny. She's got a killer story about a camel hump in that episode and eating a camel hump. just sourcing the camel hump proved to be quite the odyssey. So writer Anissa Helou, you'll fall in love with her, and you'll desperately want to eat foods from all across the Islamic world. Down to my final two. Now, for these, I went really deep back into the archives. This is like when we were just getting off the ground. And, it takes a while to build up your audience. And I have a feeling that some of you haven't gone back to these spectacular episodes. Now, I wanted to plug one that wasn't an interview, that wasn't a destination, where Ryan and I are just chatting like the best friends that we are. And this one is episode 19, the Luggage Throwdown, where Ryan and I each design our ideal piece of luggage, and then we argue out the choices and the merits of our own personal designs. And we give a luggage recommendation for that we think is sort of the best, the closest match to what we've designed. But I think, especially if you work in the luggage industry, you're going to be interested in hearing the Luggage Throwdown, episode 19. And then finally, my sixth pick, so we're giving a hot 11 for 2019, is episode 11. This, I think, might have been the first interview we did. And it was my interview with a travel writer, humor writer named Mark Adams. And he's written a number of great books. This one, we talked about his book, Tip of the Iceberg, which is when he went to Alaska and he recreated this old expedition. In 1899, a railroad magnate named Edward Harriman basically took a steamship and he luxed it out. He made it absolutely beautiful. He pimped out that ride. And then he invited all the great minds of the time, these great luminaries, including probably most famously John Muir. And he brought them together, and he basically created what he called a floating university. And they took this vast trip all across the coast of Alaska. And Mark Adams went back. He recreated that himself. Extremely funny. Alaska is a place that I'm extremely passionate about. And I still think very fondly of this interview. Maybe my interview skills weren't up to what the standard that they were, that they are today. But, this is me cutting my teeth. I mean, that's something to listen to. Episode 11, writer Mark Adams on Tip of the Iceberg. And so listen, I'm going to link to all of those in the show notes. Go back and give a listen. We're going to give you, just a short episode this week, so you've got plenty of time to make up the difference. And, if you like what you hear, we, of course, ask that you rate and review us, particularly in iTunes, but anywhere that you listen to the podcast, we could use those positive reviews. 5 stars. Tell us what you like. You can always email us at outofofficepod@gmail.com. You can ask us questions. You can propose topics. You can correct us. We will revisit it and recalculating. We're always happy to hear from you. You can ask for us to plan your travel itineraries. I have responded to listeners who have asked me to do that, and I am more than happy to. We're a travel agency as much as we are a travel podcast. And just to give you just a short preview of what's coming next year, we're planning and working on some great episodes in 2020. In January, we're going to be taking a deep dive for several weeks into our neighbor to the north, Canada. We're going to be talking about Quebec. We're going to be talking about Montreal. No better time to visit Canada than January. That's, if I know one thing, that's true. Ryan's going to be taking us to Colombia. On this research fact-finding trip, which, by the way, the pod is not paying for. This is Ryan's personal journey. He can cover those costs, but we will all be the better for it. So he's going to talk about Medellin. He's going to talk about, we're going to do an episode of Puerto Vallarta. And, Ryan and I have also both spent an enormous amount of time in Washington, D.C. So I think it is well time that we do, some of our favorite places in Washington, D.C. There's so much more to it than just the giant monuments on the mall. There are other hidden giant monuments that we could guide you to. And I also would just plug that I want to talk about a few more, if you'll let me, a few more national parks that might not be on your radar. I'm thinking Badlands. I'm thinking Wind Cave, Jewel Cave. It's a national monument, I know, but it should be a national park. I'm holding to that. And maybe even Glacier National Park, a little bit more famous. So lots to look forward to in the year ahead. And of course, I miss Ryan dearly while he's away. We wish him well and safe travels. And listen, until next time, I'm Kiernan Schmidt, and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never thought upon, the flames of love extinguished and fully past and gone, is thy sweetheart now grown so cold, that loving breast of thine, that thou canst never once reflect on old lang syne. Thanks to Bobby Burns, and we'll see you in 2020.